Hi everyone, this is Katie. I'm going to chat with you this evening about my role, some of what that involves, about the Dyslexia Scotland Career Development Service, and I'll be focusing on common difficulties that clients I work with have and with their job search activities, and I'll be sharing with you some practical activities that have helped them and ones that you can use yourself at home. So my role within Dyslexia Scotland is as a career coach and a development officer. And what's a career coach? Well, a career coach is someone who has collaborative career conversations with someone to help them gain insight to support their career decisions and their work in personal fulfilment. So for me, that involves working one-to-one with dyslexic individuals and using a variety of tools and activities drawn from coaching and dyslexia research and theory to support clients to achieve positive career developments. So finding the fulfilling career path that really works for their strengths. I also provide some really practical support, like teaching people how to complete application forms or to improve their professional online LinkedIn profiles. I provide a CV writing service too, and in the service we offer Arts Award as well, which is a qualification for young people under the age of 25. So a variety of things within that service that are all focused on supporting dyslexic people in Scotland to achieve their career potential, to realise their potential and to work towards it. I've also got responsibilities as a development officer within the team at Dyslexia Scotland, meaning I work on projects that address dyslexia-related issues from a strategic viewpoint, and for me those are typically around career-themed issues. And that can include contributing to publications and consultations to highlight the issues to wider audiences and to decision makers, and to promote best practice for supporting dyslexic people in career education settings. So that's included providing case studies and evidence to groups like the Westminster Achievability Commission on Neurodiversity and to the Department for Work and Pensions to influence changes at a policy level. I also write articles and blogs for career magazines and journals to increase dyslexia awareness in the career sector. And I've recently developed some online training for careers advisors and career educators on supporting dyslexic people with application forms. Just now I've been working with dyslexia consultant Linda Kerr, and we've designed and piloted some group training for careers advisors and employability workers. So a lot of my work is about upskilling and enabling other professionals to be more dyslexia aware so that together we can make a bigger difference to the needs of all dyslexic individuals in Scotland in their career development. The Dyslexia Scotland Career Development Service is supported by volunteer career mentors who come from professional coaching and guidance backgrounds, and each of them provide their own skills and expertise to support our clients with their career development. And between us, the types of things that we support with most are just listed here on the right hand side of the screen, and typically around the themes of understanding yourself, your strengths and how to be your best self, packaging and presenting yourself, be that online, in person, on paper, finding the right career fit for you, so fulfilment and working to your needs and strengths, and looking at broader career growth and accessing the experiences and opportunities, people, learning, the types of things that are going to help you grow into that career fulfilment that you're looking for. So to me, career issues and dyslexia is really, really interesting, and I'm really, really thrilled to have been asked to prepare this talk for you all at the Edinburgh Adult Network. Thank you very much for asking me. I had really planned for this to be an interactive workshop and for you to be taking part in activities in small groups and some individual tasks. But obviously Jean and I hadn't anticipated that we'd be in the middle of a pandemic and a lockdown. So thanks to the magic of this mobile technology, I'm speaking to you from another time and place, and we'll make do, and we'll hopefully this way of doing things hopefully just gives you a wee bit more time in your own space to reflect on you rather than working in pairs and small groups. So what I'm going to do is briefly run through some of the issues that clients that I work with experience in their job search in particular, and share with you some of the solutions that have worked for them. And I'll give you some strategies that you can self-coach with And you can try out these activities as we go along, pause the video or take the time to just quickly try them out and obviously revisit them later. If possible, if you could have some paper and some pens to hand, and then you'll be able to join in and try these out as we go along. If not, like I said, come back to it later, come back to it another time and revisit it over and over again. So dyslexic people tend to engage in more negative self-talk than positive self-talk. It's very typical and very true of the people I work with and support. And this is a tendency that can come from a history of negative school and work experiences, of often being told that you're maybe doing it wrong, or don't do it like that, do it like this. And over time that kind of snowballs and results in giving yourself negative self-talk because you've been so used to hearing that in some of those other environments. So many of the clients that I work with have been conditioned into believing that they go about things in the wrong way, or that they must be somehow inferior because of the way that they think and approach tasks. They focus so much on what they can't do that they've lost all sight of the opportunities and strengths and things that they can do. And as a result, they've become stuck in a really uncomfortable place, but feel anxious about how to move on. So career coaching can become a process of unlearning and about accepting the way that you think and embracing those strengths and making them work for you. So David McLaughlin and Carol Leather tell us that dyslexic people need to be able to focus on their abilities and what they can do if they're to feel more in charge of every aspect of their lives. A dyslexic person's understanding of their nature, of their skills and abilities, and of their areas of weakness is essential. So this is absolutely true in relation to careers. Really getting to know yourself and understanding your strengths is of huge importance, and particularly for dyslexic people. Dyslexic strengths are really talked about a lot just now. Ernst & Young, along with Made by Dyslexia, have produced these two really outstanding reports on the value of dyslexic thinkers for solving global problems and the need for dyslexic people in our workforces if our economies and our industries are going to flourish. So that means for you as a dyslexic person, truly needing to understand yourself, really know yourself, to be able to work on your strengths and to be able to communicate what those are to others. So some questions in your minds right now might be, what exactly are strengths? What are dyslexic strengths? And I'm not sure what any of my strengths are. So in terms of strengths, the definition that I like to work to is up on the screen here for you. So I say that strengths are things you're good at and that you enjoy. They're life experiences that you've collected. They're your achievements. They're your personal qualities and those positive aspects of your character that are completely innate to you as an individual. So here are some activities for you to self-coach in terms of your strengths awareness. And we're going to start with the Strengths Daisy. This handout on screen just now is something that I'll get to you as a PDF printable, so you can print off as many copies as you need to work with at home. And the Daisy model is an illustration of the types of holistic strengths that we have as individuals. Strengths that look good on CVs or that we use in work actually go beyond our qualifications. And you'll see here that that's just one petal on the Strengths Daisy. And it's really important just now for young people who are not sitting their exams to be able to remember that our life experiences, our knowledge, our skills, and our personal character are all key attributes that employers want and need. So regardless of kind of what you got on those exams, be it standard grades or GCSEs, there's so much more to you than that. And this Daisy diagram is something that you can print out and use to brainstorm your thoughts and to build a whole picture of all your strengths, of all of those petals around that flower. And this is a really great exercise for turning up those positive voices in your mind that we were just talking about and quieting down the negative ones. So do you know what? Maybe you don't have a lot on one or two of the petals, but then you'll see that there are other parts that are really, really full. Do you need some inspiration for what your strengths are? Maybe you're kind of a little bit stuck to kind of get those juices flowing. Well, have a think, what would family and friends say? Maybe you could ask them to give you some ideas. Other people can be a really great source for knowing our strengths and for giving us those positives that we don't recognise in ourselves immediately. But also, if you've had a formal dyslexia assessment, there's a whole lot of rich and scientifically backed information there about what your strengths are, so take some ideas from that too. If you don't have a dyslexia assessment, have a wee look at the resources on typical dyslexic strengths and see which ones resonate with you. So I mentioned the Ernst & Young report earlier. That's a really good place to start, and you can download that online. Just search for Ernst & Young Value of Dyslexia. And Dyslexia Scotland's resources, like our leaflets and our members library, have some really, really great information to get you started on discovering dyslexic strengths. And have a look at those and have a think about which ones resonate with you, and use that to get the ball rolling when you start to fill out that strength daisy. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of time now to have a look at that daisy model and to reflect on what some of those strengths that you have that fit into some of those petals. So getting to grips with understanding your strengths means really owning them and believing them, and getting to know and understand them. So here's an activity I recommend to lots of clients that really helps them. So these are strengths cards, and this can make a multi-sensory approach to learning, which is a more powerful process that helps you to recall and to get to grips with something, and which is really important for any dyslexic learner. So what I'm going to ask you to do is reminisce a little bit, think back to your youth or your childhood, and tell me, what did you collect? Maybe something like pogs or stickers or trading cards. So if you start to think back to that, I bet you can remember what those were, what they looked like, how they felt in your hand, what the features and the information were attached to each one, maybe even how they smelled. So for me, child of the 80s and 90s, I collected neighbours cards, and I remember they were palm-sized. They were really robust little pieces of card with slightly hazy photos of the cast and little facts about the show on the back, and each one smelled like bubblegum and had these really nice little sharp corners that felt lovely in your hand. And it's so vivid in my mind that when I think about it now, I can recall all of that. So we can actually tap into this and create something similar for ourselves as adults, and create our own strengths collection as a way to build our awareness of our strengths. That can help us support our belief in them, help us remember what they are, and help us recall that information about ourselves when we need to. But more than that, keeping a record of your achievements in this kind of way can help you own those strengths and help you come to the realisation that positive experiences that you've had haven't been down to luck, that they've actually been a part of you and you've influenced those. All this stuff really helps you advocate for yourself in a more positive way than you might be used to doing. So again, about bringing up those positive voices, understanding yourself and expressing yourself. So if we were all together in Central Library just now, I'd be dishing out these little blank cards, the size of business cards, and asking you to take one strength that you noted on your DAISY diagram and to make a little picture to represent that. So on a little piece of cardboard, you can draw it, or cut something from a magazine, or maybe you have a photo that you can print out that captures that strength for you. So get that little picture onto your card, and on the other side, make a note of what that strength is that you've illustrated and a time that you've used it. So here are some examples of how that can look. So over time, put down all of those strengths and build up your collector card collection. And every time you recognise a strength of yours, try and capture it like this. So what you're doing is building up a portfolio with these chunks of information about yourself, and you're making it a multi-sensory learning process that's helping you understand yourself and helping you remember these things. And because knowing yourself and what you're all about is kind of the first step to making job search or any career development step more effective. Starts with knowing you. And plus, once you've gathered this little collection, and I've got mine in a wee tin, do you know what, when you're having a really rubbish day and you think everything's going to hell in a handcart and you're having a really terrible time, it's so nice to look in there and just remember all those things that you have achieved and all those things that are wonderful about you. And it can kind of bring those good feelings flooding back. Clients look for help with application forms quite a lot, and particularly the aspect of constructing the personal statement type lengthy answers. First of all, it's really difficult if you're trying to think onto a blank screen, let alone a blank page, and that can often cause a kind of brain freeze. So problems clients experience is not knowing what to write, difficulty finding the words to use, and that combined with the stress and the pressure of making a deadline and organising your thoughts, getting it down, is really, really tricky. And most often that can make for a really poorly constructed answer that's not going to win over the employer faced with it at the other end. So what we work on then is a strategy to bridge that gap from figuring out what's in your head to what needs to be neatly typed up, and to bridge that gap into a more manageable process. So simple strategies can relieve that pressure and can make the process a wee bit more manageable. So first of all, you would start by highlighting the essential criteria on the job description's person specification and just focus on that, because you can be so overwhelmed with all the information that comes along with the job application. What I get clients to do then is just highlight those key things on the person specification, and we just concentrate on those. So what you can do then with those highlighted is to match the strength cards that you have in your collection against those aspects of the person specification and turn it into like a game of Snap. And what you have then is a framework for writing the longer answers. So to support that, the Dyslexia Scotland Career Service has a writing frame to help form the sentences and paragraphs that make an effective application form. It's best to use with some tuition, but I'm more than happy to share that out with you for anyone who wants to try it themselves. So working through the person's specification, putting that into a table form or mind map, and matching that against the cards you have built up in your pack is the first step to bridging that gap from getting that stuff out into your head into a really neat application form. The next most common difficulty at that stage of the process is interviews. So hopefully by the time you've developed some strategies around doing the application form, you're starting to see some success and be invited for interview. And lo and behold, lots of people find that really, really hard. But being storytelling creatures, lots of dyslexic people really do excel at interviews. It's just having the opportunity to get there. But I think just as many dyslexic people really struggle with the interviews, and that can be down to anxiety, fear of failure, pressure. Sometimes it's difficulty of the word finding to be able to communicate, again, those thoughts in your head to someone who's asking you questions. So there's two things I'm going to touch on here, and one is a strategy for remembering things that you can talk about if you do struggle with word finding, and secondly, adapting the interview to work to your strengths, whatever those are. Because it all comes back to strengths awareness. That's really underpinning everything that's really important here in your career development processes. So once you've developed your strength card portfolio, you'll have written on them, drawn on them, formed a picture on them. You'll have recorded the experiences, and you'll have touched them so many times that you'll have anchored each one of those in your mind. So you can take those along to an interview as a bit of an aid memoir, but you'll find eventually that you won't even need to, because you've committed so much of that to memory. And once you're asked about a time that you were an excellent team member, for example, you'll have a picture in your mind about an experience that you can talk about because you've gone through that process, that multi-sensory process that has anchored something in your head. Interviews can feel really unnatural for lots of dyslexic people, and that's why you're entitled to request reasonable adjustments to the process, just to help you be your best in that situation. So Dyslexia Scotland's leaflet on applications and interview has some really helpful suggestions for the types of things that you could request to make a job interview work better for you. So things, for example, simple things like having more time to answer the questions, for the questions to be written down so that you can see them, so you know you're not putting pressure on your working memory to be able to make sure that you answer all of the questions. And things that can help you to get all of your information out without having to try and fit your answer to the questions. One final consideration about using your strengths is to reflect on what you do actually find difficult about interviews, and then consider what your key strengths are. So if your strengths were all characters, which one would you call on to help? How would that strength help you out in an interview? How could you work together to make the best of the experience? So maybe the part of you that is a great storyteller can come to the rescue of the part that struggles to answer questions. Or maybe the warm and friendly side of you can lend a hand to the side of you that gets nervous. So I'll leave that one with you to reflect on and come up with your own dynamic duos. In this really short session, we're not going to be able to cover all the aspects of careers or job search. It's a massive topic and a fascinating one, especially when you include dyslexia. So there's maybe something in your mind that hasn't been covered here. And if there's something you want to ask about or find out more about, ask the question at the end of the session, or please do get in touch with myself, Helen or Jean, or put it out to the rest of the group and we'll all see what we can kind of brainstorm on together. Finally, we're going to look at talking about your dyslexia in applications, interviews, or at work. Dyslexic people are inclined to talk apologetically about dyslexia, so it's good to train yourself out of this habit as a way to communicate your needs from more of a position of confidence. So consider some of the things that you are maybe just now perceiving as a weakness, particularly around being dyslexic. So for example, you probably say something often like, "I'm terrible with names." Now what you can do is reframe that as a strength and consider what you do. So maybe you are terrible with names, but you always remember a face. So work on flipping those around. Maybe you often say, "Oh, my report writing skills are really weak." But maybe you deliver information in really interactive and visual or verbal summaries. So again, turning that around to think about what you do, what your strong point is, and using that as your communication point about what being dyslexic means for you. And that comes from getting used to saying what you do, and again, quieting down that negative self-talk with a more positive and confident alternatives. It takes some time and practice, and I have a worksheet for that too, to get the ball rolling. What I'll do is I'll share that out as a PDF or a Word document as well, so that you have the chance to work on those for yourself. And hopefully after this lockdown period at a future meeting, hopefully I can visit you in person so we can build on all of these things as group activities, which I think would be quite powerful for us to be able to share, bounce off one another. But until then, please take some time to reflect on your strengths. You'll be applying many of those in this situation that you maybe haven't even realised. So be more conscious and aware of what those strengths are, and try and capture them as you realise them. Get them represented on cards before they float out of your mind, and use the time now to take a voyage of self-discovery, to package and present yourself in a way that makes sense to you, so that you can begin to use that self-knowledge in applications and interviews when these opportunities start to present again. In the meantime, the Career Development Service is providing support online by email, phone and video, and we have some new volunteer mentors who are just about ready to get started to help. So if you do have something you'd like to ask, if there's something you think we could help with, please do drop me an email and I'll see if there's a way we can help.